Our current built environment, designed under the premise of abundant energy, has created spatial configurations that enmesh the cultural, economic, and political aspects of social life within an energy-intensive network of space and form. Any proposal for the future must first deal with overcoming this cultural and architectural legacy, and to do so, it is necessary to recognize the spatial expression of carbon energy, carbon form, as a site of intervention, which in turn reveals that architecture has a significant role in defining the outcome of this increasingly uncertain phase of human and planetary history. Several kinds of carbon form are possible, not only urban and architectural typologies, but also the spaces, objects, and produce we consume in our everyday lives. For example, flour in itself is not a carbon form, but bread made from flour, made from wheat, grown with petroleum-based pesticides and fertilizers, sown and harvested with gasoline-fueled machinery, packed in plastic containers, delivered on a truck, and sold in air-conditioned superstores surrounded by open expanses of asphalt is, if not a carbon form in itself, a commodity that circulates within a complex network of carbon forms and defines specific relationships within that network, making visible their position in land use patterns, economic and political relations, and specific configurations of built form.
Since long time ago, the cycle that water follows in nature doesn't correspond to our city's reality. As we were taught in school, superficial water evaporates, then it's condensed and transformed into rain. Part of the water infiltrates the ground, and the other part reaches the regional sources through surface runoff. In the urban environment, instead, we have replaced permeable terrains with roofs and roadways that don't allow the ground to absorb the water, redirecting it all to a sewer system that, in storm events, is usually overpassed. In addition, when rainwater finally reaches the storm tanks, it has accumulated a great amount of pollutants through building roofs, streets, and urban sewers. The project rethinks the water cycle in the city, permeating the urban environment, avoiding the increasingly frequent flood episodes, and facilitating the purification process of the rainwater. The project proposes an artificial topography through a permeable roof system selected as the prototype, capable of filtering and storing water by itself. Thus, the water cycle will be renaturalized through new technologies in order to alleviate one of the biggest problems that our present and future cities face.
Acoustic discipline is an interesting starting point in the post-carbon area, because noise pollution could be studied as residue to cases, the migration of some species, or how the design of acoustic spaces could be perceived in a different mix. For this reason, soundscapes are used as means of work to recover ecosystem sound or create new ones. Therefore, the objective is to give a renaturalization for new acoustic technology offer us to represent new ways of design. Finally, the alpha prototype is focused on the investigation possibilities offered by a changing surface to redirecting the sound in a particular direction.
We can no longer think of infrastructure as passively receiving energy from the grid, but rather as actively giving form to energy-intensive ways of life. It is rather time we started thinking what the new carbon-free forms will look like and what their implications would be not only in everyday individual food and energy consumption, but also in global dynamics. It is a non-intuitive process to imagine what an industrial negative emission system might look like, but from a starting point, we might propose visualizing a whole new way of food production system in which meat is grown in a lab, which would drastically reduce land use and methane emission. In this process, CO2 could also be harvested from the atmosphere through a breathing facade, then filtered, and then finally be used for tissue cultivation or even growing greenhouse vegetables.